All right, guys, welcome in. It is Unpaved. Sean Salisbury along with my guy Adam Sager, Triple E along as well, and Laura behind the scenes doing all the great stuff she does. Great to be with you guys today. Big day for us. We got so much to talk about on Monday Night Football. And, dude, Segs, I am going to tie in to the Jets here shortly and the Bengals. And shit continues to begat shit, but we'll get to that. And it won't be personal. It's going to be all on the field related. But this is going to be off the field or off the course or off the court related real quick before we get started. So we got a lot to talk about. Monday Night Football preview. Go Red Sox. Can't wait for that. Yes, Eggs, don't say a word yet. And I know you're not rooting for the Cubs because that C is not the Cubs. And I know if you're a White Sox guy, if you love both, you're a coward. And I know that's not you. So you won't even while you sit in Chicago. So we'll hit on these matchups and why the Cincinnati Reds are going to give the Dodgers, in my opinion, all they can handle. And why would you say that? Well, we'll tune in, and there's one big reason why, aside from talent. So we'll get to that as well as we cover our preview. But, Segs, I can't let you saw my talk about – I'm going to end my Ryder Cup talk, even with my obsession for golf today, because we're still not out of that feeling yet, right? And I destroyed the 10% of shitty fans, not the 90% of good ones of what they did. Inexcusable for how they did it to the wife. Well documented from yesterday. If you didn't, go to the podcast from yesterday or go to our social media and go to the Unpaved part of it. You'll see it because I think it's fair and it's honest, and I'll never say anything on here I do not believe, and I know Segs doesn't either, so you're getting it authentic. Go to that. But on the other side, even though I know he's rabbit-eared and he's sensitive, a great front runner and a great player in Rory McIlroy, and he didn't deserve what he got when he was addressing the ball, and neither did his wife. Obvious. But let me also say something. Hypocrisy rules like the NFL or like pro sports. You can't play fantasy football. You can't bet $50 on a parlay on Underdog Fantasy or one of them. Why? Because that's against our rules. But we're going to make $50 billion off it when we put that ad out in our year. We're going to do all these commercials. The hypocrisy of what you can and can't do in pro sports, it exists every day, right? Says, oh, don't do as I do as I say, or don't do as I say, do as I do, however that friggin' saying goes. All right, so with that, it's the same here. Now imagine this. You know, it's that guy saying, hey, man, don't go get the shot or the vax because it'll crush. And then he's the one going out and getting it, right? Well, in secret, that kind of shit. Or making money off something you preach to somebody else, and then behind the scenes, you're kind of doing it different, or out in public. So whether that's a good comparison or analogy, I don't know, but you'll get my point. You can't tell me about class and being held, quote unquote, to a higher standard in golf if when you're getting criticized and getting lambasted on a golf course at a held to the higher standard Ryder Cup, Rory McIlroy. And I thought about this overnight and I said, well, am I doing this right with him? Am I giving him? And I gave him plenty of credit yesterday. Great player. Phenomenal, Hall of Famer, cares about the Ryder Cup, loves his teammates, all that. Didn't deserve what he got while he was addressing the ball, and neither did his wife when they weren't. And we got to be better. We just do. But the other side of it is you can't say, you can't cuss and you can't yell obscenities at me and then turn around and say, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And then turn around at the press conference and say, well, how'd it feel, to have them basically motherfuck you and then you to hit a ball to 2 feet and stiff it. He goes, oh, it felt fucking great. Okay. Right. So with that, I understand his frustration, but you can't preach class and higher standard when all of a sudden, because you have rabbit ears, now you've just lowered your standard to be tooling around in the mud with the pigs. Right. So with all the love, and I know, and people, it was disgraceful and all that. And for 10% of them, it was a major disgrace and an embarrassment that, quite frankly, I know that Bethpage Black didn't want on their back, right? It wasn't Bethpage Black. And the setup of Bethpage Black was on Keegan Bradley and the PGA of America, not on anybody else. So they'll fix that. And the course is going to be set up brutally when in Ireland. They're going to make it so miserable on the U.S., they're not going to believe it. And so U.S. better put their team together knowing what they're about to get and who can deal with that. Segs, you and I off the air talked about that yesterday. So real quick as we move on, because the Ryder Cup, I understand our gut still is bothered from it. But Rory, if you're going to tell somebody to be classy at a held to higher standard event, and those are my words, the classy, but it's supposed to, golf is held to a higher standard, then you can't, while you're asking golf to be held to a higher standard, turn around and then treat it like it's held to a lower standard and buy into what you're doing. And then this, it's classy, held to a higher standard. And what a shock. Who are the two guys that are at fire the most? DeChambeau and McElroy when they talk about it. And then put the sign right over DeChambeau on purpose. Now, if you had the balls, you would have put it over Scheffler, your guy, because you like him. Put it over somebody you like. So don't tell me he's a grudge holding, get even guy. He just is. Instead of taking the high standard, saying, you know what, I'm not going to get into it, point and laugh and just keep moving, like Tommy Fleetwood did the entire time, regardless who's cussing, support your teammates. So when you're asking us to hold you to a higher standard, you can't do this, say fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and keep walking. While your wife's there and kids are there, and you said it out loud. You didn't just lip it. You said it out loud. So while I get both sides, if you're asking me to be classy and be held to a higher standard, then you can't stoop to the mud level that you just got pissed off for them stooping to. I'll end it right there. Great player, great thing. But U.S., my final thought on the Ryder Cup, you better start paying attention to the detail or you're going to get your ass handed to you again. Great players, but the detail matters. And they were not detailed enough to beat the Europeans, aside from the fact they couldn't put it into a manhole, let alone a little hole on Friday and Saturday. But a great effort to come back. But I'm not a warden. I'm sorry, Segs. I don't do moral victories.
No.
Ryder Cup, and it's because, it was only 1 or 2 putts. Well, yeah, if they made them. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. You missed them. So here we are. So we can move on from that, Segs. I don't know if you feel the same way. I know that Rory feels like the kid who didn't get the bike for his birthday when he asked, or his Christmas, like everybody else. Yet when he gets the bike, he's really good on that sumbitch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Here we are. And I'm a fan of his, and I can like the guy, but don't preach to me about higher standard and then turn it around and, or be that guy who says you need to be religious. I'm not saying him, or tells you what a Christian you're not. Yet he only is a Sunday Christian where he spends time in church on Sunday, and the other 6 days a week he's a sinner through the roof, right? I'm not talking about McElroy. I'm talking about of us that are hypocrites in what we preach. And he was a hypocrite for a few minutes on what he preached over the weekend, no doubt.
It's just like we see in the other major sports, mostly basketball, football, baseball. Baseball, you see it a lot where a guy gets pissed because someone pimps a home run off him, a pitcher. And then all of a sudden, pitcher, he gets a big strikeout and he's flexing, screaming, yelling, pointing at the dugout, all kinds of stuff.
Staring him down, right? Yeah.
Don't. If you're going to do that kind of stuff, you can't be the guy that comes back and gets mad at people for saying stuff to you.
You know who would have been better to say it, Segs? It's a great point. Thinking about Tommy Fleetwood. Fleetwood's as good a guy as there is in the world.
Yeah.
Okay? You know who would have been better to address that? Because Fleetwood probably bothered him, but, just keep it calm. And the best way to answer it is not go play well, which they did, but also don't address it. So Rory, and the more you do that to somebody, the more Segs, they're going to continue to. Now that doesn't give them an excuse to go and ruin it for the golfers who deserve that, because you also ruined it for the U.S. Why? Because now they got to defend New Yorkers, and it may not even have been all New Yorkers. There's other people from all over the world that came to the event, but they're the ones that are going to get pigeonholed into it. And now Justin Thomas has to quiet the crowd. And they didn't need to do that. They got to work on making a putt, which they couldn't make Friday and Saturday. So the collateral damage that happens becomes widespread when hypocrisy kicks in. But you're so right. Don't tell me you can't brush back a guy, and then when you home run, you pimp him, or vice versa, like you just said. So if you're gonna approach it that way, then you got to live it. And unfortunately, Rory got in with the pigs at the end. He just did. And I understand his frustration, and even Chipper Jones said, then next time probably don't bring your wife. But he shouldn't have to not bring his wife. I understand what Chipper's saying. Your wife should be allowed to go, and it shouldn't be a Ryder Cup. And they'll get that. They're going to get it a lot more reverent the right way in Ireland, but we're better than that. But it wasn't the whole. To say everybody isn't fair to the fans in New York, because it wasn't everybody.
Yeah, it was just a brutal look for fans, but also a brutal look for Rory McIlroy.
No doubt about it.
Let's jump to Monday Night Football last night. We'll start with the Miami Jets game. Miami wins 27-21. Let's start with the gruesome injury that Tyreek Hill suffered. Dislocated his knee, tore his ACL, tore everything in his knee. The Twitter doctors are out saying he could be done for 2 years This is career threatening. He's definitely done for a year plus. It was nasty the way his foot was pointed the wrong way. I mean, everything about it, I just cringed when I saw it. And that's that, and I don't even think the defensive player meant to do the alligator roll tackle with it. I think Tyreek also kind of rolled, but gruesome injury. And it's devastating for Miami, not in the fact that they want to win games this year, because we know they're not going to beat good teams. They're not a playoff team. But that was a guy you could have traded in a couple weeks and gotten even a 4th round pick, a 3rd round, whatever it was. It was an extra pick to help this rebuild get going a little bit more. And now he's out, and it was tough to watch, and really tough to watch if you're a Dolphins fan, a Dolphins front office member that had plans on trading Tyreek Hill in just a few weeks.
Segs, there's so many branches to this, and it's such a great point. Listen, we don't want to be insensitive and say, man, you could have traded him on the injury. The injury is obviously the most important. Now, we do know there's been some volatility with him in Miami, right? But there's volatility with him everywhere. Great player on the field, off the field. We've heard it both. But that's not the point here. The point for him is, and the talk of, does he want to be traded? Is he going to get traded back to Kansas? All those things that go on. I'm with you. The injury was gruesome, and I've shredded every ligament in my right leg, and I shredded mine twice. I've had compound fracture, which he didn't have, but dislocated knee, all those things that go with it. And it's usually not the physical pain, Segs, after it sets in. Initially, it's the mental and emotional anguish you got to go through. And you saw his reaction, which I thought was odd. But I talked with somebody today. I was on another show today that asked me this morning, my buddy Dave Carmichael in Sacramento. He said, Sean, I know you've had injuries. He goes, I found he goes, I've had an injury where when it happened to me, this is what he said. He said that I felt for about 15 minutes after euphoric, because there was this weird feeling that went through my system of not glee and happiness you got hurt, but like whatever it was that started the endorphins kicking in or what have you. And he said, and it was awkward because I was hurt and done.
Right.
And we saw Tyreek clapping and with a big smile. And I was thinking, is that a smile of and laugh of that, that grimace smile we'll see some people get? Or it was like, I'm going to be back fired up. Don't worry about me. Or if it was some weird thing that kicked in that did sometimes you're in shock when stuff like that happens. And I told him, I said, well, there was no euphoria at all. The first and second time, especially the second time, I was pissed. I remember it happened to me on the same field at Arizona State, on the same side of the field, going a different way. The first time my pops came down, and the second time, just say, make sure you're okay, like parents do, because I've never been through that type of injury. And we were, playing great football, and that was MCL, and then I missed the season. And those injuries were longer then with medical, and I had the plaster cast on. Then 2 years later, the same, but the ACL and everything went. As I've said before, I played my whole career without an ACL ligament in the NFL, but I can remember I went to the sideline after knowing something was wrong, Segs, and I went to the sideline after I heard it, and they taped from my thigh under my pad all the way down to my ankle. I'm talking about a mummy tape job on my right leg, and as a right-handed thrower, that's the plant foot.
Right.
I said, I'm going back in, and Ted Tollner was the coach. I said, I'm going back in. I said, tape the damn thing up, and I was out of the physical pain. My knee was shot.
Yeah.
I said, put me back in. Adrenaline got me. I'm saying, no, this isn't happening again. They put me in after taping it up. I could barely bend my knee. It was so taped tightly.
Right.
Cutting off your damn circulation, but I didn't care. I took my first step and collapsed in a pocket because I had ACL, like lateral movement. There's no lateral movement.
As soon as you
running straight ahead.
Right.
So I sided out and dropped in and fell. And right then I knew it was over again. And it was I didn't feel that. I felt anger. There was no euphoria. I wanted to fight everybody. Why me? I pouted for a second. I was pissed. But it was emotional and mental distress for me. There was no euphoria at all. But it's weird how it reacts to different people. So I'm assuming at some point somebody's going to say, did you see your reaction? Because I'm going to tell you that to Tyreek Hill. I haven't watched the replay, Segs. And I'll take you back to this. And I don't know if you've ever talked to this. I have still not, after all these years, watched Theismann and Lawrence Taylor's replay. I still won't. Yeah. I've had a compound fracture, as I said, where the bone pops out of the skin. And, where it was like people are looking like, how in the world, where you go into shock, but you don't know what the shock is. And so I haven't watched, and I won't watch the Tyreek injury because I just can't, even when it's a non-contact injury, which happened to me the second time, where just boom, went. And like when you see somebody with an Achilles, I can't. And my stomach can handle just about everything, but it's weird. I guess maybe because I suffered it and
Right.
But I haven't watched it. So I'm not going to watch the replay of his injury either. I saw it live. He said, ooh, that looked bad. I turned my head. I just won't watch it. But that being said, whether you had a stomach for it or not, you're so right. If they wanted to move him, they can't. If he wanted, and Segs, isn't he in his early 30s now? Where are we at with Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that's.
And I'm not saying that's the thing, but at that position, you will go through the questions. Now, publicly, he may never say, you will go through those times and you're sitting in that hospital bed. I'm just telling you, where you question, do I want to? Can I perform at the level? And I started to question that second time, man, what's this going to do to my movement? Is this going to ruin, it affected me. I didn't get drafted after that. And I had to make a team and play without being drafted. So you go through all those, then you get pissed and say, I'm fighting back to prove to the world. So wherever Tyreek Hill is in that, but he will go through all those emotions. But now, like you said, you had a valuable asset for your team and possibly to get assets for your team that are not going to be there at the trade deadline. But more importantly, I hope he recovers and gets back and is healthy. But when you get along in your career, Segs, the rehab's tougher. The physical stuff, I believe he can overcome. It's the mental and emotional stuff that he's going to go through that are hard to take to see how he responds.
Well, and he is 31, especially when you look at the fact that the type of player he is. He's either straight line speed, which he has a ton of, and we'll see how that comes back, because when you do it this bad, you don't always come back, 100%, especially when you're 31 or 30 plus. But also, he's a guy that you like to get the ball in his hands and he makes quick cuts.
Great long space. Yeah.
Yes. How long does it take him to trust that knee? I mean, there's guys that still say like they have it done and they don't really like to cut off that knee fully 100% like you see these guys do.
Validate that real quick, Segs. I don't want you to finish your thought.
Nope,
when I came back in the spring the next year, in the spring practice the next year after my second injury, even the first one, but the second one, don't think for a minute that the very first time it was full speed drop back, even though you weren't getting hit. I was scared to death, not afraid of the pain. The scar, I'll tell you what hurts worse than the actual injury for me was the constant training of and tearing scar tissue. It's like, this is awful. But it was the mental and trust that you could come back and still be the same and put your foot in the ground, dropping back and slide in the pocket and climb the pocket. It took me a while in the spring. If we would have come back and I had to start the NFL season that, like let's say it happened late in the season and you rehab and you missed preseason, but you were ready for the regular season, it would have been even more difficult. We saw it happen to Culpepper in Miami. Remember when Culpepper and Dante was such a great player, active enough, athletic enough, but when he got to Miami, and I always say with a knee injury or an Achilles, when you feel good, wait another month. Because you're all in a hurry to get out of the tub and go play because you want to get back out on the field. But Dante, you saw him when he was dropping back, he was still limping.
Yeah.
But I know his urgency to get out there, and I felt so terrible because we never got to see the full Dante Culpepper. Now, hopefully we will Tyreek Hill because Dante was so special, but you want to get back out there because you've been rehabbing it so hard. I did not have, thank goodness for spring, because I had to gather that confidence. No matter how world-class you think you are, there's still that, do I still have the same trust? Is it going to happen again? And it's hard to go through, man. It really is.
Yeah.
It's like a guy who gets UCL, and then all of a sudden, like Luis Garcia, who's going through it here, and you get it, you come back, you start twice, and then all of a sudden call the manager out, and you're like pointing to it again. Right then and there, he knew. Yep. It's like, again, which will be almost 3 years before he got a full season out of him when he comes back. And you know what he's going to do when he steps on the mound the first time, Segs, next time he comes back, is wonder, what happens when I have to reach deep down and unload on this? Will I still be the same guy? Which is sad, but it's unfortunate part of this sport that happens. See what I told you? We're always so concerned about the upper body injuries, the head injuries, that the gruesome injuries like this. Oh, now we got to pay attention. You're damn right. For a receiver, that almost affects them more because they're psychologically thinking. We all think we can come back from a non-tangible concussion. A lot of us aren't sure we can come back from a lower half Achilles or knee injury because it's tangible, because you can feel you can't rehab a concussion, dude. You just time. Right. When you're rehabbing, you know, okay, I'm strong. The testings, the analytics of the testing and the evidence is showing it. Concussion, you don't. So it's okay to pay attention in NFL to the lower body injuries just as much as you do the head injuries, because they do matter differently to some and just as important to others.
Well, and when you look at it, you see James Conner get hurt. You saw Najee Harris pop an Achilles. We saw Malik Neighbors just tear his ACL by just, coming down, trying to jump up and catch a ball. It's almost crazier that we don't see more injuries.
Agreed.
With how violent football is when it comes to just tackles. And I mean, these guys are so big, so strong, so fast that the way they can hit each other, the way that they can move is not natural.
No,
I mean,
isn't.
for the most part, it's not natural. And it's just, it's insane that there isn't more injuries.
Segs, don't you think about every time a back has to take it inside and people are falling at their legs or hitting them up high, when Derrick Henry's burying into the hole. You're so right. I've said this before. I said, man, with the number of times guys go pad to pad, violence to violence, not intentional, explosive to explosive, full speed coming downhill, and you're hitting a back who's running a sweep. You think about that. And then you look at an injury. Like when I saw Neighbors get hit, I thought, well, is it an upper body injury? I wasn't sure. And you think, well, there wasn't a lot of contact, and you just don't know. And it's like it ended his season with an ACL. And a lot of times the hits, we come out and say, that didn't look that bad. Right. And you think, well, damn, these doggone guys with all the hits, there should be more, which is which attests to the physicality and the tremendous athleticism and strength that these guys have. Yet the injuries come, or like, and I think, Segs, and I don't mean this disrespectful to those that aren't stars, we always seem to pay more. It could be 2 blown out knees, but we'll pay attention more to Malik Neighbors and Tyreek Hill than we will a right guard who did the same thing and who's under the same thing. Yep. I don't know if it's because stars or what, how it is, are affecting their fantasy team, which isn't right, but it's weird how, he'll be okay. Well, wait a second now. It's still important to him, right? Yeah. It's still important to him. So, and how he gets back. So that's the unfortunate part of our business, but it is more people that aren't hurt. It's a great point. And to answer your question, Texan Spur 80, from all I've heard right now, I almost feel like the Joe Mixon thing, there's this feeling of it's going to take longer than you thought at the beginning. I'm not sure if Mixon's coming back this year. At least an insider I talked to said this isn't a sure thing he's coming back. Wasn't sure it was over. Now, I trust Mixon. He's a stud, but I don't think that you should count on him back anytime soon. If he does, that's the bonus, because there's a lot of talk that you may not have him this year.
Getting back to the Dolphins and Jets, let's go to the other side of the field in the New York Jets. Aaron Glenn came out when he was hired in his opening press conference, and he said, we're going to get rid of the penalties, the dumb penalties. We're going to get rid of the undisciplined football. We're going to get rid of poor decision-making. And that's all we've seen from the Jets through 4 weeks. I mean, last night, I think they had 13 penalties for just over 100 yards. So the penalties aren't fixed. Undisciplined football. We saw the guy catch the ball at the 2 on a fair catch on a punt. You just watched it. And Justin Fields actually played well last night, and they still lost.
He's getting better.
Without him, a bad Dolphins team.
Yes.
But how, your quarterback that you don't know week to week how he's going to play. He plays one of his better games, and you still lose the game to a bad team because of undisciplined football, penalties, dumb mistakes by players not named Justin Fields, that you're kind of just like, Aaron Glenn, I know you're 4 games into your Jets career, but shit's got to start changing soon.
Yep. Segs, the buy-in, if they say they got it, it sure doesn't look like it. I watched 2 teams, the Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Jets last night, humiliate themselves and embarrass their cities when it comes to football embarrassment, right? Fans in Cincinnati and New York, you deserve far better than the product you're paying for on the field. You just do. And listen, when it comes to penalties, now you can't be a bonehead dumbass that you're jumping off sides pre-snap on a regular basis, which we saw here in Houston with the left tackle before he was shipped to Washington. Yeah. Hell of a player with a ball snap, but when you go from 1st and 10 to 1st and 15, you wonder why you're not a good third down team because it's 3rd and 9, okay, on a regular basis. You put your team in a bind, and those are fixable. Just like a couple things, low IQ football, Segs, bothers me. If a receiver's jumping off sides, he can't play for me. I don't care about the noise. He's supposed to watch the ball and go on movement anyway. All that, you're not even supposed to be going. That's why they have hand signals now. You don't do it, no matter when it happens. So we always say penalties are on the coach. Are they practice? You're either allowing it, you're teaching it, and if you're doing either, then you got to fix it. And if not, you got to go. Now it's only 4 games in, but whatever discipline they're supposed to be teaching, it is a horseshit discipline because the Jets are pathetic. And I love Aaron Glenn, always have loved him as a player. But I can tell you, sometimes people are better coordinators or get buy-in as a coordinator. Now, Aaron Glenn may turn out to be a Hall of Fame head coach. I don't know. You got to have players. You got to have high football IQ players, and you better have players that get it and get buy-in. But 4 games in, the Jets look like a team that should be playing against St. John Bosco in Jersey. Okay, they're the fans. You deserve better, and if you're paying full price for a ticket, demand a refund and get one of those. I don't do frivolous lawsuits, but that should be a class action lawsuit against the shit you're seeing. And in Cincinnati, the whole organization, if you're Joe Burrow, you're saying, coming out of this injury, I wonder if they'd trade me or go get me Joe Brady because and I like Zach Taylor, but what they're doing ain't good either. It's listen to Aikman talk about the game last night, and it's like Troy was discussing because Aikman only knows good stuff from Dallas, and I love the fact he said enough. And Aikman ties into the referees, ties into the penalties. I friggin' love him. But Segs, the embarrassment they're going through, and I'm going to tell you, the low IQ stuff I'm talking about, low football IQ. When you were 9 years old, Segs, and the coach said, special teams out there, you're the punt returner. Now, you're a slow white guy, so maybe it wasn't you, but maybe
it wasn't me. Yeah, definitely.
It wasn't me either. But you heard, set your heels at 10, and if the ball goes over your head, I can take a bunch of 5-year-olds out there. I can touch a bunch of 5-year-olds out there, and they'll soak it in because they soak in everything, and they wouldn't take a step back. Plant your heels at 10 if the ball goes over your head. Don't take a step back and catch it at the 9. If it goes over your head, you leave it. You run forward and let it go. Get out of the way. Now, when you catch a ball at the 2 and fair catch it, and then turn behind you and look like, oh, man, I fucked this up. Yeah. Well, what did he tell you at practice? Now, if the special teams coach is saying, go back there and catch everything, then I want the special teams coach fired now.
Yeah.
But that is low football. That's why they don't win, Segs. The little detail. They don't have any details.
No.
The guy catches it too and then looks around. And if I'm the special teams coach and you're not putting somebody else back there or Aaron Glenn, you got to coach your coaches too. You better go to your special teams coach, say, are you telling him to catch the ball inside the 10? And if you are, then you take 2 weeks off, catch the next bus out of time. Your stupid ass is fired. You're low IQ football coaching. I got to get a better special teams coach. Now, and the other thing, when you said shoot themselves in the foot, as we see the quote, the bottom line is there are certain things that it's tough enough to win doing it right, Segs, because the other team's really good. They're going to beat you physically. When mental errors like that happen, right then you throw your hands up in the air, and you'll see it this weekend. A college guy or an NFL guy is going to catch it at the 7. He's going to catch it at the 4. Every now and then he'll return one, but they play hero ball. I don't care what the coach says. I'm going to catch this and return it 98 yards. It was dumb. If you're going to be stupid enough to catch it, IQ-wise, football IQ-wise at the 2, then return the bitch. So at least you can prove to me that you made a big play out of it. You can't do it. And when I watch it, it's head shaking. I see it every week. And when you're the Jets and you stare at it, you're like, oh, all it did was validate why you're 0-4. And Justin Fields deserves better because he's actually getting better all the time. The poor guy needs to get on a good team. He just does because he's pulling his weight. And even through the injury, he is getting better. I just can't fathom that you're a pro and picking up a paycheck. You better be going in the back door with a mask on like it's COVID when you pick your check up. If you're catching balls or teaching balls to be caught inside the 10 on special teams. And while it might seem like a small thing, Segs, 3 downs, you're punting out of your own end zone. They catch it at the 40, they go score. Ball game already shifted, even if you were in it. And you're doing that against that soft-ass team you played against last night that was in a pillow fight the whole season, and they won the pillow fight last night. It is just, I can't fathom stupid football. I just can't. I don't know how smart they are in the classroom, in their math class, but I got news for you. That's not real tough math to put your heels at 10, and if it goes to 9, don't touch it. If it goes to 11, catch the bitch and go do something, right? Don't lay it on the ground. But I can't even start with the return until your football IQ is high enough, knows that you didn't go back 2 yards. You didn't go back 3 yards. You went back 8 yards to catch it at the 2 and fair catch it. What a brilliant move. The Jets, the Titans, the Saints, none of them are doing these things right. And exactly why, aside from lack of talent, they're just taking lack of talent. It's like taking a 7 talent group and already putting it as a 4, Segs, because you have no chance going in because you're not doing the little things right. And the little things lead to big losses. Cincinnati and fans deserve better. The Jets fans deserve better. They were pathetic, and you shouldn't be paying full price for a ticket to watch that crap.
How much do you think this goes back to? Because we're talking about dumb IQ football, and that goes to dumb penalties. That goes to, oh, you get in a little shoving match, and then you got a guy who will reach in a face mask and yank the face, and then look at the ref like, what did I do? And we see this time and time again. And it's not only those kind of dumb. Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell on the Colts this past weekend makes an incredible catch, runs, is going to score, and just to, I don't know, showboat or whatever, goes to stick the ball out as he's crossing the goal line, fumbles it through the end zone, and costs his team a touchdown. Well, what'd they lose by? A 6, I think. I think it was a 6-point game.
The score wins the game if they
so it's just dumb football. And you know, I've talked about, I watch a lot of youth football, which we don't see a ton there in terms of like where they talk shit and stuff, but high school games. I mean, I go watch high school games here in Illinois. There's all kinds of kids, including, you know, the kids that my high school, they had 4 personal fouls this past weekend on just dumb shit. And it's because these kids watch a lot of these dumbasses at the NFL and the college level, get up, they flex, they do all this stuff. And then we wonder why in the NFL and in college, we see dumb play after dumb play, either after the whistle or before the whistle, because it's like they just think it's more important to look cool doing something than, or we're going to talk shit, than actually winning the football game.
Segs, so valid and so on point is, first off, when Mitchell does that, that's look at me, selfish football.
Yes.
It just is. You could slide. Now, I've seen times when a guy's running and the ball comes out on accident. When you're shipped, dude, just secure it. It's like when you tell a kid in the 40-yard dash, they run 38 yards and drop, they don't fit it. Run 45 yards on your 40. And then we'll talk and you can get your rest at 45 yards. Same thing here. When you think you're in the end zone, take 3 more steps and get in. Because it costs your team. It's selfish, look at me bullshit that we allow to happen because that's what we show on the highlights. And the kid in your grade, or your kid's grade, thinking, oh, man, I'm going to do what he did. And then you lay down and you celebrate. This game's too hard, and you just can't do it. You can't say anything other than it's selfish, cowardice, chicken shit. Look at me. I'm not about the team football. Now, he may be a team guy, but I'm talking about the team football that you have to have all the time to be a great player and teammate, correct? And he may be the nicest guy in the world, but when you're there, that's 60 minutes. You got to compartmentalize it. You know what? I'll celebrate 5 yards deep in the end zone. You just have to. And it is very simply, I'm going to start my celebration soon. And every year we see it cost somebody. We see it cost somebody. And you are exactly what you're going to you know what they're going to do? Players will bury you if you tolerate it. They will continue to they'll push and push and push until you, and then we get mad at the coach for fighting back and saying, no, you're sitting down. Why'd you bench him? What's the big deal about a celebration? The celebration cost you a football game and a possession. So with that in mind, it is the most selfish. Listen, there's a few things in life that in sports, stealing from a teammate, those kind of things in a locker room, and on the field, penalties that you can control, because it's tough enough. Like I said, you get your ass kicked. It's a fist fight. If you don't understand what a fist fight is for 60 minutes, wrong sport to play. Right. But the one you can control, like securing the ball to get in the end zone, there can be no more selfish act on the field than that. Selfish wise for a teammate. Segs, it's like anything in this low IQ stuff. If I tell you you're my roll corner, we're playing 2 high safeties and we're playing 2 deep, cover 2, and your responsibility is the flat. And at the snap of the ball, you decide just because you're who you are that you're going to drop to deep third. And we throw a ball in the flat and the guy runs for 30 yards and makes the guy miss when corners usually can't tackle anyway and scores. Right. And then you say, what was the cover? Oh, it's cover 2. What's your assignment of cover 2? Flat. Is there any other assignment on cover 2? No, it's the flat.
Yeah.
Why weren't you in the flat? I don't know, coach. Well, then what were you doing in the meeting? Were you sleeping? Were you thinking you're a hero? You're going to do your thing? What you allow on Monday through Saturday, normally in a Sunday game, is exactly what you tolerate is exactly what they're going to take. And it's the truest statement. If you give them an inch, players will take a mile. Now, it's the good way, too. You give them an inch to go and say, hey, I'm turning you loose. They'll cut it loose. Right. But if you don't set standards for stuff you can't accept, and it's not one of those things you go on a press conference after and say, you know what, listen, he was going through something, or he didn't know where the goal line was. Why didn't he?
Yeah, that's
and that's the time it's okay to call your team out for playing dumb ass football. And watching some of it, the play in the NFL, the consistent play, is sloppier than it's been the first month of the season I've ever seen. And we say it's sloppy every year. It's just lasted longer this year. And keep doing this. And New York fans and Cincinnati Bengals, you should demand your money back for what you have to watch every week. And the difference in the good and the bad normally, good teams like Buffalo that sit at the top, the Rams, you know what the difference is? It's a guy under center, usually. You got to have a good quarterback. And it's about 2 or 3 other players or 2 or 3 other players' decisions and 6 to 8 plays a game. That is the difference in going 3-14 and 9-8 or 10-7, or even from going 9-8 to 14-3. That's right. Good teams don't beat themselves. They may once in a while, but it gets nipped in the bud. And if you're one of those guys that continues to hurt me penalty-wise and is that kind of player, then you got to have the guts as a coach to sit him down and say, listen, until you understand what we're trying to get accomplished here, you can't play for me. And if that hurts their feel, I ain't in the player feel-good business.
No.
They get enough money to be smart, just like we shouldn't have ties. They make enough money to play through and through and save the injury stuff because guess what? We're going to play on Thursday this week, aren't we, Segs? They're going to play on Thursday. So I don't want to hear the NFL's injury stuff. There's no reason we should have ties, but that's for another day. That frustrates me. It's well documented how people feel about that. But I can't stand selfish play and stupid low IQ football play. We're getting way too much of it this year.
Sean, you talk about the Bengals. Whew, they lose 28-3 to the Broncos. And I watched that game, and the Broncos looked fine, but there was nothing that I was like, oh, man, this Broncos team is scary. The defense is really good. Offense has some nice
quarterback
pieces.
Enough. They only got one guy who can get to the quarterback. Other than that, they still need to pressure more. Thank goodness.
Cincinnati, though, 4 games in. And I know you don't.
I was talking about the Bengals, Segs. I was talking about the Bengals. They get one guy. That's who I was talking about.
4 games in, you've run the ball 76 times. You have 200 yards rushing in 4 games total. That's 2.6. They're only averaging 205 yards per game on offense. Again, I know Joe Burrow's, but we talked about it on the show. We thought Jake Browning could come in and at least be competent.
Because he was in the past.
He has been. And I know a lot of it is that offensive line. That offensive line is beyond atrocious. I mean, there's that one play where Browning, I think it was a 3-step drop. He hits his 3rd step, and both tackles got beat on just speed rushes around the end, and the defensive ends met at the quarterback and hit him on his 3rd step drop. It might have been a 5-step, but still. I mean, that's pathetic. But this Bengals team is bad. And I mean, they're without Joe Burrow, they're Saints bad. And Jamar Chase is not happy.
Dude, that's about to explode. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you what happens is that now coaches and players against each other, players and players, coaches and coaches, that the Bengals fans deserve that. They've had to deal with this shit for too long. Everybody in that state of Ohio, football teams, not sans Ohio State, is looking for people to play like Ohio State, right? The NFL teams just aren't good. And their baseball team's good. They could take some resilience from them, right? Both Cincinnati and Cleveland. Okay, unfortunately, the football teams in Cincinnati and Cleveland aren't very good. And here's the problem, Segs. There's elements like Cleveland's defense is lights out. They haven't scored 20 points, I don't think, since last year, Segs, like week 10 of 2024. It's a bad watch. And now with the Bengals, you can't line up with 5 guys that are getting paid and play that poorly. But that's been so what is it, Segs? Is it bad, bad scouting, bad evaluation? Because when they got to the Super Bowl, that cost them. And it was just their offense was so good. And then their defense has been so bad in the past that you'd score 40 and give up 44. And now you combine. I know how important Joe Burrow is, but even Burrow's not going to be able to overcome this.
No,
he's not. And Jamar Chase is going to – he got paid, but he's going to be pissed because receivers love numbers. And he's not getting any. And you can't set up – and you should never – three-step drop, you should never be taking a hit. The ball should be coming out. You can't let them beat you untouched. It's so hard to watch. You're saying, couldn't I just get a warm body to at least get a hand on somebody? It is. I'm watching it and I'm thinking, I know I didn't see that, right? I'm not saying I could do it, but guess what? I'm not a tackle or a guard. That wasn't my position. I'm not. And I can tell you what, I might have made a lot of mistakes, but very few mental ones. And I ain't making many of those. But just lining up and not knowing who to block, lining up and can't even get a body on somebody, and you run that many times for that many yards. I thought the Miami Dolphins were finesse. Is there a more finesse offensive line in the league right now than them?
No.
They're horrible. And if their pass rusher isn't getting after you, their defense has been Swiss cheese from day one. So aside from the fact that they can't run the football, they're not throwing it very well, their stars aren't rearing their head, and their defense isn't very good, man, they're a hell of a team. I'm going to tell you what, Zach Taylor better get it fixed or he won't finish the season. I'm just telling you. There's already, and I like Zach, I do, but there's a hot seat that's going to get hotter because the Cincinnati Bengals front office isn't exactly the most stellar over the years to count on. And here we go again. See that right there? When you got to calm the player and go back and forth, and we're seeing it, it's only the beginning. Take that frustration, and when they're 1-7 or 2-9, and you're not getting the ball, now come tell me what's happening. Even the players aren't trying to stop. Nobody's trying to stop Jamar Chase from going off.
Right.
Frustration will continue, and then you pit people against people. It's going to be ugly. Too bad for the Cincinnati Bengals fans. They deserve better as well.
Yeah, and I didn't know, and it's because they don't have one in reality. Their GM has to be on the hot seat, but they don't even have a GM. They have a director of player personnel in Duke Tobin who has not done his job. And you talk about Zach Taylor being on the hot seat, which he should be. So should that guy, because to let this now turn into not only us, but other people around football talking about this as another Andrew Luck situation where we don't know how long Joe Burrow will last. He's had multiple season-ending injuries. And basically, and I know everybody's just going to say, oh, well, it's just a toe. Well, that injury is really bad. And the fact that he has to have surgery on his big toe. And
he's just a toe, he'd be back.
Yes.
If it was a slight toe injury, he'd already be back playing.
Yes. He has to have surgery. He's out 3 months. First of all, there's no chance that if I'm running this team, Joe Burrow is touching the field this season.
Great.
Because we are going to spend every resource we have next offseason on the offensive line. And they've actually spent, I mean, I was just looking at their depth chart. Amarius Mims, first-round pick last year. They signed Ted Karras, who's a veteran offensive lineman, center, who can help lead an offensive line, but that's not Orlando Brown, a veteran. They drafted Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia this past year in the 3rd round. So they spent resources, and they're still this bad. So maybe it comes back to coaching.
Thank you. Is the head coach coaching the assistant? Segs? When you say that to me, guys who've had some success and been in the league a while, and then they get to your program, it's like, why are they getting worse? Why don't I know who to block? Then you got to take a long, hard look at what's going on in your meeting room. Are guys not? Are they not getting buy-in from understanding? And if they're not, you can't teach one and not worry about the other 8 in the room. Especially in offensive line, if 3 are good and 2 aren't, and they're not doing their job, you're done. Even if 4 are, because I'll find the weakness, and defensive coordinators will find the weakness. So you say, how are they not just serviceable? They're not even serviceable. And how does a team line up in this NFL in this day and age without a GM?
Right.
See, I've always believed that people define roles, successful businesses and teams define roles early. If you're defining roles as you're going along, you got no shot. You have to define roles. And when I got a non-GM situation with this team, then it comes to, can you not evaluate? Are you a horrible teacher? So what is it? And it's probably, Segs, usually it's not the one extreme or the other. It's somewhere in the middle, which means the players aren't catching on. They're not real physical. the coach is not, his teaching's not getting across to them, and you're tolerating it on the practice field. It's usually a combination, so it lands somewhere in the middle, but it becomes extreme because every time you run something, and you're right, 3 months later, if I have 3 games to go, Joe Burrow's not touching the practice field, let alone the game. I'm not doing it.
There's no way they're in playoff territory. Yeah.
Normally you have Burrow and you say, oh, we start off slow, we'll come back, because that's been the history of him and them. Not happening this year. They're not good enough. You can't change physicality during the season. You either are or you aren't. And when you can't move the line of scrimmage 6 inches and they're playing in your backfield, no shot.
And part of this starts at the very top with Mike Brown, who's had issue after issue after issue with player contracts, Shamar Stewart almost went back to tried to go back to Texas A&M because they wouldn't give on the smallest detail in a rookie contract that every pick around him got, and they just wouldn't do it. And then they had the I'm going to blank on the defensive end that just had the whole lockout. I got it right here. Trey Hendrickson. Yeah. That took forever. Yeah. He's one of the best edges in football, and they wouldn't even give him half of what he was, should have been offered. So it starts at the top. It's bad at the GM / director of player personnel level. And then you really have to question coaching as well. So it's just bad all around with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I guess I should have thrown them in that question last week when I asked who needs the first overall pick the worst. It might be the Bengals.
They're involved too. But the question is, you got the question now, Segs, even if they do get the first overall pick, when it comes to non-perimeter people, will they do it right?
Right.
And it's the sad thing about it is they're also 5 players away from being 5 players away, because one guy's not going to be enough up there up front for them. They have got to get better. They just absolutely have to.
We didn't get much of a chance to talk about all the games yesterday in the NFL. So let's just quick run through them, and we'll give 1 or 2 statements on each game and kind of talk about what happened in our feelings with it. Let's start with our 2 teams. Bears beat the Raiders 25-24. Bears blocked the field goal to win the game with just 40 seconds left or whatever it was. Your Raiders actually played well. Max Crosby's arguably one of the best players in football. I mean, he wrecked that first half. I mean, the Bears had zero answer for Max Crosby, but Caleb Williams, when it came down to nut cutting time, had the big drive to score the touchdown to take the lead. And then the Raiders moved the ball, got it into field goal range, and Blackwell, the backup corner, blocked the kick. Another block kick we see in the NFL. And it's fascinating to see, not to go off on a rant, but he said that the special teams coach said that teams are figuring out little tiny details to tell them when to go and what's the fastest way against each unit that they play, where they think they can get the block. And Blackwell said after the game, he was close on 2. He figured out exactly when to go. He knew that he could get that third kick. And the special teams coordinator called it in Ben Johnson's ear that Blackwell's going to block the kick. And then he did.
Segs, what's interesting is that the Bears couldn't run the football. I mean, they had they rushed for a couple of yards and they were awful.
It was bad.
An inconsistent quarterback, yet a dynamic one in Caleb Williams, who, when it mattered, see, that's a sign of growth for me. When he needed it, let him on a drive to put him in position to win. Important, not only for his confidence, but for the optics of his team to know that he wasn't pouting. I haven't had my best game, but I've made enough plays, which is important. They're going to have to run the ball better. The Raiders, on the other hand, is one. They had a hard time throwing. Geno Smith got to cut the turnovers down. I don't care how many yards they throw for, it's going to kill them. Look how good they ran it, finally getting Genty going. But their passing game, I think they had like less than 20 attempts. They ran the hell out of the football and were physical up front.
Yeah, 230 yards or something.
They ran the hell out of it. But the problem is turnovers killed them. And on that kick, Segs, this goes back to another football IQ. Your guy's edge rusher that blocked the kick ran untouched. Yep. How's that happen? You know what's happening. You've already know the sidelines that, man, we've come close on a couple. If you're the team kicking, so you say, okay, we got to stop this because it's getting too close, and you adjust and adapt. Ran right through, blocked it. So what the Raiders have not done is the little things well enough at the end of a game to win. And the Bears are making strides, which doesn't surprise me. More poised than they've been in the past, more explosive at times. They're going to have to get a little more consistent. And Sags are going to run to it when you stop the run, that they're going to shut Caleb down too. So you're going to have to play.
Right.
You're going to have to be a little more balanced for them moving forward. But the Raiders, they are killing themselves with turnovers, similar to another team up north in Northern California. The 49ers are doing the same thing. So I know it's easy to say, but for the Raiders, turnovers and a very unbalanced offense this past week, and the Bears took advantage of it, especially. And anytime you force turnovers and get a special teams big play, the numbers will be overwhelming in the win column for you as opposed to the other side.
Yeah, let's go to the NFL Dublin game from this past weekend. Steelers beat the Vikings. You and Coach JB talked about it. Both quarterbacks played well in this game. Aaron Rodgers looks like the perfect fit for that Pittsburgh Steelers offense. The Vikings, Carson Wentz plays really well, throws for 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, 24-21, close game. Steelers now 3-1. Are they a threat in the AFC?
Segs, I'm not so sure.
That's why I said it like that.
Bengals are done. The Browns are done. Even though we want to set the deal, those two are done. So who's playing? And you got a 1-3 team in the division that's supposed to win the division, and they're injured and playing like horse shit right now, meaning the Baltimore Ravens. It's Mike Tomlin. One thing I know, they're not going to have a losing record because he always has a losing record.
Always.
They've got the best quarterback since Ben, and it looked to me in that game like Rodgers' rhythm and the old timing of Aaron Rodgers is back. The slant, the throw he hit, the Metcalf out the back door, run after the catch, they're more explosive than they've been in a while offensively. So the balance will be important, but Rodgers looks different, and he looks happy. And that does
I was just going to say, he's having fun again like he did in Green Bay.
No question about it. It's as close to him there than I have not seen through injury and all the shit in New York. And even at the tail end of Green Bay, he looks happy when he was in his prime. That's big for them. Yep. The one thing they had to sew up is being Pittsburgh Steelers defense again. And it's starting to come around. Yet you don't want, the backup quarterback to torch you like he did, but they still turned them over a couple times. It looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers we're used to. Considering the injuries, if the Ravens lose again and go down 1-4, and the Steelers are what? If they win, will be 4-1. The Steelers are going to win the division. I'd be hard pressed because the Ravens look not only out of sorts, but with injuries and coupled, and you see the frustration in Lamar's face. Things are not right now in Baltimore. It doesn't look like the organization I'm used to seeing. I still think they can overcome when they're healthy because they're dynamic, but they've killed themselves laying the ball on the ground. They've missed opportunities, and the injuries, they're as soft as they've been, and the Steelers look like they're toughening up again. Yeah. This looks like a Steelers team. Give me the Steelers, and I would have never thought that when the season ended. I always think they're going to hang around, but they're going to distance themselves if these injuries keep up and they keep playing. Rodgers looks happy and content, and that's a good thing for Pittsburgh, and I know Mike Tomlin can coach his ass off.
Atlanta beats Washington 34-27. Washington really ran the ball well, and now they don't have Jaden Daniels, but Michael Penix played well. You have to be concerned if you're a Commanders fan about that defense, that giving up, because Michael Penix hasn't played well this year, and for him to have kind of his coming out party, throwing for 313 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Game the week before, he played well this week. Yep.
Bijan Robinson had over 180 yards from scrimmage. He's one of the best running backs.
If they do that, Segs, they're going to be dangerous because they've got receivers too.
Right. Drake London's really good. So both teams are 2-2. What do you think about Washington without Jaden Daniels? What does this team look like moving forward? Daniels could be back this week, maybe a couple weeks still, but they can't be losing games like this to teams that, in my opinion, they still should be.
Yeah. For me, especially with Philadelphia in the division, it doesn't lose much, right? They're going to win a lot of games this year. Washington, I think it's just as simple. And you're right, Segs. What happens is defensively, and Mariota's a serviceable backup. He is. but you can see that they feed off. They're just far more explosive and give you a little more bandwidth and a little more distance when their offense got Jaden Daniels on the field, because then there's not pressure on your defense to make every play. Defense is going to have to get better. What they haven't done is pick up the slack when you lose your starting quarterback and no points are going to go down. They just haven't. So I know it's not one guy, but Segs, it may be just as simple as the Jaden Daniels performance and energy back on the field. Not to say Mariota, he's playing efficient enough, but the explosiveness isn't there, which puts more pressure on the defense. And right now, they're not doing and dominating the line of scrimmage and playing like Dan Quinn would want them to play, which I would think that could get fixed because he's really good at that job, even though he's the head coach. That's got to change. On the other side of it, you can tell this offense is completely different without Jaden Daniels. The ability to throw it, while Mariota's a two-dimensional quarterback, he just can't throw it as accurate in the way Jaden Daniels does. They got to have him back, or they're still going to be a team that can beat anybody, but they can also lose to anybody without him. I think it's just that important. In Atlanta, keep feeding that running back in the backfield because he's nasty. And the question is, will their defense hold up, and how consistent will Penix be? That division is winnable for anybody, although Tampa's got grit, and Baker Mayfield admitted he let his team down, which is, I love his toughness. That division's winnable. Teams are Carolina looks like they gave Atlanta their fits the week before. I don't think either team's a Super Bowl threat. Washington without Jaden Daniels isn't, and Atlanta's still a year away and a couple more players away, I think. Yeah. But you get in and you never know what can happen. I don't think either one are playing in February, but I start to see Penix's growth. The growth will be good. He's just still in the learning process, and he hasn't played a full season yet. So
yeah, something you and Coach JB touched on yesterday. Lions beat Browns. Lions are back. They're really good. We know that. Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson has to be talked about with Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett as one of the best football players in football because he's wrecking games. And that defensive line's really good, but when they didn't have him, they were bad. As soon as he comes back they drafted the kid out of Ohio State, Tyleik Williams, but Aiden Hutchinson is a difference maker, and it pisses me off that I'm a Michigan fan and he's in the NFC North, and I got to root against him when he plays the Bears, but damn, he's really good. But the Browns, this is what you guys talked about yesterday. Shedeur Sanders says, I could be starting quarterback in this league. I'm better than, half of the starter, blah, 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 runs his mouth again. Rex Ryan went off on him on, I think it was First Take, whatever show he's on now, that basically he should be embarrassed that he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL because this kid had every opportunity handed to him up until the NFL. His dad was his coach in college at both stops, at Jackson State and at Colorado.
In high school, Segs. He coached him in high school, too.
And in high school, that's right. So, he called him out that basically, you kind of need to shut your mouth, put in the work, and if you're deemed ready, you're deemed ready. But right now, Dylan Gabriel's ahead of you. I mean, Shedeur Sanders' face when Dylan Gabriel walked into that game at the end, because it was so bad that they gave Gabriel some snaps at the end, you could read Shedeur's face like a book, that he was very pissed off.
Well, he hasn't earned the job.
Exactly. And that's where, and part of it is the media. And I know it gets clicks. So you go talk to the kid after every single game, and the kid's going to talk. We know that. But sometimes you just have to take a little bit of a pill to just swallow it and just say, you guys, our team wasn't good enough. We're going to get back to the drawing board, and I'm going to keep doing what I do as a backup, keep trying to get whoever's in front of me ready for the game, and I'll be ready to go if they need me. Sometimes you just got to say that, but from Shedeur, I don't think we'll ever get that. He'll just continue to run his mouth.
No doubt. Real quick on the Lions, it proves to you that while coordinators and coaching is important, so is talent. And Hutchinson wrecks games in the run game too, Segs. It's not just getting the quarterback.
Yeah.
He is a two-way player, which is a good thing. This Shedeur Sanders thing, third-string quarterbacks should be seen, not heard. Okay? That doesn't mean you don't talk, but he'd be better served to compliment. It's easy standing over there. I'm going to share a quick story. The easy standing over there and he's a talented kid. He's easy to like I hear him. He feels like he's, got a good personality. I'm not around. He says some stuff because, we know that he's going to talk because his DNA does. But his dad,
Yeah.
his dad was backed it up. Matter of fact, his dad was a better player than he was talker. His dad could sell sand to a beach volleyball player. And he's great. And I think his dad does demand now. His dad's going to believe in him. But I think behind the scenes, his dad probably says, now make sure when your opportunity comes, you're ready for it. I think Deion's like that. And Deion was a great teammate. Ask anybody. And everywhere he went, everybody loved him.
Yeah.
So DNA, but he's been programmed. He's never had to compete for a job. And it's easy, Segs, and I'll tell you, because I did the same thing. Now, he drafted. He should have been drafted. Let's be honest. It doesn't matter where you're drafted now. But in the pecking order, Dylan Gabriel was taken first. They held him in higher regard. He's going to get the first look. Now, when it happens, whether Flacco or not, if Gabriel plays well, then he'll keep the job. If he doesn't, Shedur's opportunity will come. And could you imagine playing 2 or 3 games and blowing it because you weren't prepared? You were too busy telling us how good you were as opposed to being prepared mentally, emotionally, and physically. And Rex is over exuberant at times because he gets after it. And that's the way he coached. That's who he is. But there's a sense of him that's right. My rookie year, Segs, I went to Seattle. And I'm 6'5", 230, ready to go, rip at 100 miles an hour, right? We get to mini camp. And a guy named David Craig. David Craig went to Milton College, which is like an elementary school, which is no longer there. Didn't get drafted. And David Craig was a guy you look at his career and he put 8 million numbers up and played like 17 years. Great career.
Yeah.
Great teammate and a great friend. But when I got there, he's the guy. Think about when you're like 6 at Christmas and your parents get you the Chicago Bears helmet and jersey and pants, the plastic helmet that kind of rolled around your head, was too big for your head. The jersey came down to your forearm because it rubbed against your elbows because it was too big. Your pants looked like you shit yourself. You know what I'm talking about? But you were cool as hell.
Yeah.
I go to minicamp my rookie year, and I'm watching us go through our first practice. We got Steve Largent and the original Kurt Warner running back. Dude, we got good players. And I'm going through, and Earl Winfield, my buddy who was drafted by the Seahawks, was a North Carolina wide receiver, good player. And Earl and I we're going through minicamp, and I'm going through warm-up, one-on-ones, routes against air, and I'm saying to myself, I'm beating that guy out.
Yeah.
David Craig's about 6 foot tall. The ball doesn't have a strong arm. He's going through it. He got a dip in his mouth while he's playing. I'm thinking, okay. But he'd been in the league a while, and he and Largent were as good as there was. But I'm still looking at that ego, says, I should have been drafted high because I would have been a first rounder, at least by Mel Kiper. I don't get hurt. Not a pat on the back, just setting up the scenario. And I shredded my knee twice. So I didn't get drafted, but I still felt like I was a first round pick, right? I'm beating him out. So we're going through it, dude, and I'm ripping comebacks thinking, man, look at me, right? I could play. Well, I played at SC. I'm the shit, right? Not out loud, but I'm thinking to myself, and I finally, after we're going through one-on-one and routes on air, it's not my turn. So I look at Earl and I say, I'm beating him out. And I didn't mean 3 years from now. I said, I'm beating his ass out. Now, I had a great preseason moving forward to trade camp, but this was mini camp in the offseason after the draft. And I said, I'm beating him out. Dude, we get to 7-on-7, and we get to team. And I'm watching Steve Largent run outside, not an inside post corner from the slot, outside post corner. Craig's throwing it while Largent's still running to the post, dropping balls into the pylon right in his arm. And by about 10 minutes left in practice, I looked over to Earl and said, I ain't beating him out. So point is that, man, it's the same. And I'm like this. And then he goes on and the guy's out of it. And then I realized his timing and accuracy, he was a gamer. When the team drills kicked in, it was almost like he was toying with the young guy saying, what the hell is this? And then bam, bam, bam. And I'm thinking, okay, now I get it, right? Shedeur, I understand it's easy to sit back and say, I could be starting for the Jets. I should be starting for that team. And when he said that, he wasn't talking about other teams. He was talking about his own team, Segs, no matter what you say, that I could be. And maybe he will. Talented kid, go to work. But I can tell you this, it's a lot easier as a third-team guy knowing you're not playing to say that than when you're the guy that you're one play away from being the guy to say it. You better be ready, because if they don't, think what it's going to sound like if he's not ready and he plays like horseshit for all the people that want him. And if he plays great, he'll never get the job back. But it's not going to be the physical. It's going to be can you pick up a 4-side blitz? Can you handle the fronts and all that? So are you putting the time in? Because the opportunity will find you. It is going to find him. I don't know if it's this year or 3 years down the road. But even if it's frustrating, you have to be ready, because when you are, they're not going to give you a long time to do. You're not a first-round pick. They're going to give you a minute. And if your minute isn't good, they're going. And you know what? If you're that good, beat out Dylan Gabriel because he's the next guy in line. So I'm pulling for the kid. I hope so. But there comes a point in time that a third string corner, and they're going to interview him, which they should, but they're going to interview because they know, like you said, they're going to get a hot take from it. And I don't want to talk that long on this because he is a third stringer. But go to work, and when the opportunity presents itself, be ready. Because if not, late round draft picks that don't seize the moment aren't going to do it. We're pining, people are pining for him, but there's still another layer he's got to get to, and it'll be the mental and emotional that he doesn't handle. If he doesn't handle it, will be the reason, because he can throw it. He's got a good arm, but he's not overly skilled. He's not overly athletic, but good enough to survive it. But he should spend more time making sure that talk less, 2 ears and 1 mouth, probably for his sake. Use him accordingly until you're playing like your dad on offense.
Well, and that's where it comes back to, to me, it's Dylan Gabriel versus Shedeur Sanders. Joe Flacco is the veteran. He's the starter as of now.
He's holding it down, dude.
Yes, they deem it's time to move to one of these guys. And
if it keeps up, they will in another couple of weeks. They just will. They have to.
When you talk about the fact that Shedeur played for his dad everywhere until now, and then the adversity that Dylan Gabriel has gone through with the bad injury at UCF, and then yes, he got to go to Oregon, and he played his ass off and got himself drafted based on what he did at Oregon. He was a good quarterback before, and we saw him do good things, but then he went to Oregon and even upped it more in an offense built for quarterbacks.
Amen.
But Shedeur's never had to face that adversity. Hell, he's getting his damn number retired after going 13-12 as a starter.
Segs.
In 2 years, he's getting his number retired. So don't tell me there's no nepotism when it comes to Colorado football and Deion Sanders, because you get your number retired after going 13-12 in your 2 seasons. Get the fuck out of here.
And we see it all the time with coaches too. Coach, and then his kids there, and they put him in, and some turn out well and some don't. It's like, we see it all the time. It does. Some are successful, some aren't. But in this case, you're exactly right. And nobody can tell me right now because they don't know. Now, Deion, I'm sure, feels like he is.
Right.
And I'm sure Shedeur does. But I have never had more growth and success than I've had in failure. Never. So when the job's handed to you, at some point in time, Shedeur Sanders is going to get his ass kicked in a game, in practice, where he's going to feel overwhelmed. I don't care what he tells you. It's going to happen. It happened to Andrew Luck. It happened to Peyton Manning. It happened to all of them. The key is, are you equipped to deal with the bad times? Any of us can play. I can still go back and throw it when we're up 42-10. Okay. Yeah. So for him, the key is when he does face the competition, and it's a battle royal, and you don't have somebody sitting on the sideline saying, this is your job no matter what happens, so go play free and easy. Now, and you got to elevate the dudes around you. It's not just you, it's everybody else. We're going to find out. I don't know when it's going to rear its head, but it will. And we're going to find out, can you can you handle the duress that the position offers, and then some competing with somebody where it's back and forth, dude, and the final decision is going to be made by performance, not by pops. So I think the kid's got a chance to be good, but I also think Dylan Gabriel's a great gamer. He's the kind of guy in practice you look at, like David Craig, you say, not a strong arm, doesn't do it. But then when he gets in a game, he just finds ways to win. So we're going to see, but we don't know how he's going to react to competition in his own building. Why? He's never had to face it. So we'll see at some point in time. But the best thing to do as a third quarterback is ask every question of Joe Flacco. See, I would spend time. He ask every question of Flacco you can on the planet. Wear him out until he says, take your ass home, dude. I don't want to talk any more football. And then when your time comes, the physical stuff, it's not the physical stuff that eliminates people. It's the mental stuff. Is it getting behind mentally? I'm not saying he is, but as a young quarterback, whether it's Jackson Dart, who I think is special and a dynamic, but he's going to go through his lapses will be, I don't know what was going on, because you're swimming. Even as a rookie, you don't know what you're doing. You're hoping you do, but you're still behind. It's like, damn, I'm just trying to learn how to get out of the damn huddle and know the cadence, let alone know what the coverage is. And they will find, those defensive coordinators are smart. So I'm anxious to see how Shedeur Sanders deals with the first real in-house competition, not just the competition on the other 11 cats, in your own house, how he deals with that. But right now, you don't have to deal with it because he's not next in line. Dylan Gabriel will be the guy that starts first. So we're giving way too much attention to a third stringer. But when he's a first stringer, imagine what the talk's going to be like. But he better seize the moment, and I'm sure Deion's told him that.
Yeah. Quick update. We talked a lot about the Chiefs-Ravens yesterday. Brian Wacker of the Baltimore Sun said on Twitter today that it's very unlikely that Lamar Jackson will play this week against the Texans. Looks like he's going to miss maybe 2 to 3, maybe even 4 weeks. I saw from someone else. So he could miss through the bye, and then they play the Bears, could even miss the Bears game. How much of a danger is it? Now, I just had their schedule. They go Texans, Rams, bye, Bears. You're 1-3. You're playing a Texans team that hasn't played well. Yeah, they played well against the Titans, but they're bad.
And their defense is outstanding, those Segs. They can shut you down.
Yes. So, but this is a must win for both the Texans and Ravens this coming week. Now you don't have Lamar Jackson. What do you do if you're Cooper Rush? If you're the Ravens offense, do you lean on Derrick Henry even more? Who Derrick Henry has shredded the Texans in his history, but not playing this defense, this Texans defense. So what do you do if you're the Baltimore Ravens, Cooper Rush, and the offensive coaches?
Well, and one thing, Cooper Rush has had really good success in Dallas as a backup. He won games, but he won games because he wasn't a hero. He just went in and felt in the structure. I never tell a quarterback, hey, don't lose me the game. When you tell that, you put negative into it. Drive the bus, man. Denny Green used to always say that to me or any back. He used to tell me that all the time when I get, Sean, just drive the bus, meaning get our team there safely, protect the football. But they didn't change game plan from Warren Moon, Jim McMahon, Rich Gannon, Wade Wilson to me, whoever, Brad, didn't matter because they felt confident enough because I was mentally ready to play and I could throw it. But you knew, not Warren Moon, but we weren't changing a game plan for the quarterback. The Brian Billick and Denny Green's expectations were, we're going to do what we do. The onus falls on you to make sure you're ready for it. So with that in mind, but the other side of it is there are certain things you're going to do to dial up Cooper Rush. What happens in your game planning if you're the Texans? You don't have to defend as much of the field sakes because Cooper Rush isn't going to beat you with his feet. Now, the one thing that's shocking is how lack of the physicality that's not there on their offensive line right now. They're not moving. I take that back. In the run game, they are, but they're not syncing both. There's a little inconsistency. They've always had a dominant front, but it's defensive front seven with the injuries where they're getting mauled, which if the Texans do anything physical on offensive line, they with Nick Chubb, they at least pushed the pile a little bit last week, right? Run game. They're still, if you're the defensive coordinator, Segs, you're dialing up all kinds of unique fronts because the Texans can't block anybody in a passing game.
Right.
With that, the Ravens are always going to be physical, and Derrick Henry brings his own physicality anyway. That's how you're going to approach this, and you're going to mix in play action, and you're going to play to Cooper Rush's strengths, which means ball out quick, smart, don't turn the ball over. I know that sounds like a negative, but it's not like go win it, go ahead, but just protect the ball right, but be judicious with it, but take your shots when they're there. You got to do it. Advantage Texans defense in this without Lamar, because Lamar is the toughest guy, and then Josh Allen, to defend in pregame when you're putting your game plan in because of all the bandwidth he brings to the table, right? But now with him out and you're going to a guy, you've really limited the quarterback run RPO, quarterback run game in this. So helps the Texans defense. And if you're good Texans and you're struggling, you're getting the Ravens at the right time. Injuries, not physical on defense. Maybe you can protect the passer. And as long as you stop Derrick Henry, I don't think the Ravens can win the game. But if you're just burying Cooper Rush, it's wrong because he's been solid and smart when he was with the Cowboys, and they're expecting the same thing. I would expect that Monken will design a game plan that allows Derrick Henry and some play action mixed in. Advantage Texans defense, advantage Texans offense because even though they played good in the fourth quarter, they still haven't exploded. And what better time than now to be physical against the defense that's not physical? I would expect, Segs, there's a real good chance that they come out of this 1-2 the next 3 games, meaning Baltimore. You play the Rams, you said. The Rams, if they don't have Lamar.
So you're saying they're going to beat the Bears?
No. I said they could. See, I'm not so sure that the Bears, with the way Caleb's play, if they stay injured and Lamar doesn't play, you're capable with the way Caleb's dynamic play, even though they've been consistent, and Stroud's capable. You can disrupt that. I don't trust the Ravens right now.
Even with Lamar, you can't.
That's what I'm saying. So you really diminish what you do. You're going to have a little bit of an out-of-body experience, and Monken's going to have to call his best game because you don't have the guy that can bail you out, Lamar Jackson. I think this is a dangerous game for the Baltimore Ravens and a dangerous 3-game stretch because if you got 1 or 2 wins coming out of this and your team in the division, Pittsburgh, keeps winning, you're going to be in a chase mode the whole time. I would run the ball if I'm both teams, but it's going to be tougher to run it even with Derrick Henry against the Texans front than it is going to be tougher to run it and get points if you're the Ravens front, because they're not very good defensively right now. It's as soft as I've ever seen them, and I know injuries have something to do with it.
Yeah, we'll continue talking football as we move on this week. But, Sean, we got to jump to end the show to Major League Baseball playoffs. We got the Tigers and Guardians playing right now. It's 1-1 in the top of the fifth. Cleveland just scored to tie the game off Tarek Skubal on an infield single. This matchup, it's kind of – this is where if you're the Tigers, I know you have other good pitching, but you can't lose the Skubal start. Like, that's like when you get into the playoffs and you have that dominant ace, it's like the Red Sox. They can't lose on Garrett Crochet's start, or it makes it so much tougher to win the series, especially when you're in this little wild card when you're only playing 3 games.
Yep.
So
go ahead. No,
just when you play these short series, getting your ace out there and getting that win is most important. But if you can get your offense going, because remember, there's that little tiny 1-day break, your offense keeps going. Then you go against a team who's sat now, say in this instance, the winner of this team will play the Mariners. They've sat now for, 3, 4, 5 days. If you catch them, get through this wild card. That's why we see wild card teams make it to the ALCS or NLCS, because they play a team that's just been sitting for so long that it kind of takes them a second to get going, and it's too late.
And you stay in that competitive mode, Segs,
right.
You do. And who's had to be competitive? The way Cleveland's played to catch Detroit and do their thing,
Yep.
They're feeling it right now, and that does matter. And with the short series, if you're ace, if Skubal did, first off, going into this game, I would expect a low-scoring game because Skubal's that good. You got to have to carve out a 3-1, 3-2 normally. Now, who knows with this? But we always know that if your aces are pitching well, the hitting's going to struggle. It just always does against good pitching in the postseason. That's the grind here. But I love the way Cleveland's been playing, Seg. So, but yet when Skubal's on the mound, you will always take. It's hard to bet against him because he's so friggin' good.
Right.
These short series, you get down one game in the short series, and now Segs, a lucky game in game 2 or 3, and you're done. And you're done. You have to watch this closely. I love this series. I absolutely love the series. But, man, the Cleveland Guardians are playing really good baseball. A month ago, Segs, if I told you Detroit wasn't winning the division 6 weeks ago, you'd have laughed at me.
Yeah.
But look what's happened. So you even got to be Detroit questioning where you are, because the very team that chased you down is the very team that you got to face. But Skubal, you cannot lose with Skubal on the mound because the way you're going. That will deflate confidence. Now, Hinch has been there before, and we know this. But, man, I don't know if there's a scrappier, grinded-out team. I look at Ramirez, and I think that's the way all the Cleveland players play. They'll do it. If you can knock Skubal out and win this game and the way they're playing, give me Cleveland, although I would have never said that 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, and then when you go against the Mariners, who knows? Staying in the AL tonight, 5:00 Central, Yankees, Red Sox, another playoff battle. I know you're a Red Sox guy. Where do you stand in terms of how this series matches up with these two teams?
I hope it's intense as hell. Yeah. I hope that we get brushback pitches and everybody pissed. Because this is really, Segs, when they're good, this is one of the great rivalries in sports. Now, they shove it down our throat on television. I get it.
Yeah.
But you know the whole key to this, Segs. Keep the middle of the lineup from destroying you with the Yankees lineup. You just have to. You have got to keep that guy right there from dominating, the guy on the right on my picture screen from dominating like the guy on the left did in the postseason. The only blemish, if you want, over his long, great career for Aaron Judge's postseason domination, where he carries you like Harper has done, dominates you and carries you. If you can keep those guys in the middle of the lineup down, and Crochet's capable of throwing a 2-hitter in the postseason. I'm choosing the Red Sox because I'm a Red Sox guy, and it'd be very hard, like Skubal, to pick against a dominant pitcher like Crochet, who's been phenomenal for the Red Sox. I picked the Red Sox, and it's either the Red Sox and Phillies or Red Sox and Padres at the beginning of the year. I think it was Phillies, but I may be wrong on my local show. But I picked the Red Sox to win to be in a World Series, and I think win it. I'm going to stick with them, but you can't let the middle of their lineup and the big boppers kill you. Keep the ball in the ballpark. Red Sox can win this game 1. Give me the Red Sox in the series. But I love the competitiveness, and I'm going to choose them on emotion. But I don't think it's
Right.
just emotion because I love Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see. He's got 3 innings of playoff baseball in him in his career, and it's because he was a reliever back then, and he did get hurt. Remember, he came out and he dominated the A's, and then boom, that elbow went, and then he was out and had to come back from that. But his first career postseason start, but damn, he's been so good this season, and the fact that he went over 200 innings pitched when the big question was, how many innings will he give you? Had 260 strikeouts. I mean, he is a true ace that you can give the ball to every game 1 of a playoff series and feel like you have the better pitcher on the mound, even when you face a Tarek Skubal.
Right. You got to keep the ball on the ground in both ballparks, especially to right-handers with the wall when you're in Fenway. But people that go the other way in both ballparks, and you don't want to let a simple pop fly beat you. You got to keep the ball on the ground. You got to keep the middle of the lineup down, and you can't, free pass would be a problem. And if you're the Yankees, you got some horses. The key for them too, Segs, I would imagine there's a little bit of people are going to continue to question, when's the last time you won a World Series? They're going to hear that. No, they just are. People are going to grind on that, and they're also going to grind on the fact if you're the Yankees saying we got a bone to pick because of last year's World Series. And let's give them the respect. They were the representative in the American League, and they've come back and done a good job. And there you see, they're not exactly chopped liver with their starting pitching either. So listen, it's a cliche, but it's the truest cliche in sports. Starting pitching will dominate good hitting when you got good starting pitching. The question is, which one of those guys, when Fried's pitching or when you're throwing your ace, if you knock the Skubals and the Crochets out, heavy advantage to the opponent. Obviously, the Yankees, I get it, but I think the Red Sox, and there's something about a Red Sox grind that I like, and they clean. When they got Devers out of there, there's a grind with the Bregmans and stuff that know how to win in the postseason. So I think this goes through. I think both are going 3 games, but I can tell you this: it's going to be a play here and a play there, a stolen base, a stupid error, a ball that you misplayed, and which lineup brings the 3, 4, 5 guys to the plate that takes care of their business in big moments, because that's what we're always looking for. Is the Phillies are going to ask for the same thing from Schwarber and Harper and their group, just like they are. Give me Garrett Crochet until you prove me otherwise.
Yeah, and the winner of that will take on the Toronto Blue Jays, who won that AL East. Switching to the NL, we got the Dodgers and the Reds. They kick off later tonight. We've got Hunter Green for the Reds, who's a dynamic pitcher that can throw, feels like 125. And then you got the veteran Blake Snell going game 1 for the Dodgers. We know the Dodgers are going to be the heavy favorites. They won 93 games, but this Reds team, like I almost said Indians, Guardians, had to fight their way into the playoffs. The Reds had to fight all the way till the very end, and they come in. They've been playing playoff baseball now for weeks. How does that give them an advantage over the Dodgers, or are the Dodgers just too good?
Well, if the Dodgers were too good, they would have dominated the division and dominated the league and wouldn't be playing in a wild card round.
Right.
Okay, so that's one. Now, if you look at the roster on paper when they're right, it's like, come on now. When you look at the lineup, it's like, how do you get them out? Hey, of course. And Blake Snell's not exactly Cy Young unfriendly. He understands and cagey and has seen the movie plenty of times in his career, correct?
Yep.
Segs, I'm going to tell you what the deciding factor maybe end up being for me is Terry Francona.
Yeah.
Look what Bochy did his first year with the Rangers, won a World Series. Now, I know this isn't the big red machine in the 70s, early to mid 70s, but sometimes young and naive and not used to it plays free and easy. Where's the pressure fall? All of it's on the Dodgers. They're about 15 games less than people thought they were going to win. They've had their injuries and their bats quieted down. What have the Reds had to do, like we talked about Cleveland? They've had to stay competitive to get in. So they're riding that, man, let's just keep playing. So listen, you'd be an idiot not to pick the Dodgers, yet if you go in and steal one and Green matches Snell and you get it. Now listen, you want to talk about dynamic, Ohtani, the guy in Cincinnati is pretty dynamic too, and Dela Cruz. He ain't half bad, right?
Yeah.
So they are, and they're feeling it. And you know what? This makes me feel like I'm watching Garvey and Say and those group and George Foster and Johnny Bench. While the players' name, the history and the blue blood part of it kind of gets me pumped up. So the only thing missing is the Oakland A's and Joe Rudy and Reggie Jackson in the American League playing the Reds. So
right.
Segs, I'm telling you, I'm grinding on a part that thinks that Cincinnati, if they take game one, is going to win the series. I think this is a dangerous series. And as much as I like Dave Roberts, sometimes you can roll the ball out there with that team and win. And he's done a good job winning the World Series. It's not to discredit him. But you'd be hard-pressed to find two managers in baseball better than the guy in Cincinnati. Look what he did to get him there. Don't tell me it doesn't make a difference. I think this is a dangerous game because the more you don't produce runs or the more you get behind, the more the Dodger pressure is going to hit them because they're the reigning champs and everybody expected them to win 105, 110 games. And they've had it. And maybe that's an advantage that they got kicked in the teeth later in the season.
Yeah.
And they didn't have home field advantage throughout. But Segs, I think the Cincinnati Reds are a dangerous matchup right now because watch the energy. As long as they're not overwhelmed by the pressure of the moment, I'm anxious to see what happens in this one. I'm not going to bet it, but there's a part of me that wants to see Tito Francona pull this off, and it will matter. And you know the moves he's going to have to make to do it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting tonight to see the youngster Hunter Green in his first postseason start take on Mookie, Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Andy Pages has been really good this year. Always
somebody in the Dodgers, right? You didn't expect, and Pages, they're like, oh, here's another dude.
Yeah.
I would just say this: make sure that the Ohtanis and the Betts don't get in. Freddie Freeman's don't get pitches they can drive because that will not end well for the Cincinnati Reds.
Right. Even if you can throw 103 like Hunter Green, they'll turn it around.
They will turn it around, and they won't go. They'll pull it to the upper tank or over the pavilion in right field or left field, no doubt.
Right. And then lastly, in the NL, we got the Padres and Cubs. They kick off in just about a half hour from now. Nick Pivetta on the mound for the Padres and Matthew Boyd for the Cubs. Cubs favorite as being at home. What do you think about this, man? I'm worried about, for the Cubs' sake, Matthew Boyd going against that lineup of San Diego that can be very, very dangerous, especially against lefties.
Yep. And in that ballpark, depending, it's not too cold right now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no, it's 85 and sunny.
So you're not getting them like late in October. So you're getting them when you're feeling good. And you know how the Padres are. They are swagger-wise. All you got to do is look at the third baseman to tell you what kind of swagger they're going to play with. Segs, and if they get roll, and they're capable with their pitching to shut you down. They are. I really like what Matthew Boyd said. Segs, the emotion they talk about. There's something about his emotion about getting a chance where his grandpa grew up watching the Cubs, and now he's going to start the opener. That's pretty impressive. But you know what? The emotion goes out if you give up 2 runs in the first inning. Now you just got to get back to pitching. Yes, advantage Cubs because they're at home, but the bats of the Padres can be streaky, and if they get rolling, they can roll through the entire National League. Yep. So I'm going to take the Padres. Maybe there's a hint of me because it's a hometown thing, but there's also part of me that roots for the Cubs because and I know this is blasphemous for me to say to you, Segs, the history, the Cubs, and they're back in the playoffs, and I know Kyle Tucker, I'm sure, is excited. I love the Padres bats, but there's a moxie about the Cubs that I like, and there's just the history of the Cubs. I put it this way: I want to see it go the distance in this short series. I don't really have an emotional either way. I just want to see good baseball, but I'm watching both intently. I'm curious how they're going to shut down Boyd, and that pitching staff are going to shut down the Padres lineup because they are, when they're going good, they can swing the bat as good as anybody in baseball from 1 to 9.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Cubs have some young players, but they also have some veterans that have been in the playoffs. So it'll be fun to watch that. I think that series, along with the Yankees, Red Sox, obviously are my 2 favorite series, but I think the other 2 might be the best baseball series, if you know what I mean.
Segs, said, Sean, pick the series that's going to have the most runs in it.
Yeah.
Padres Cubs series. I think that that's a 7-6, 7-5 type game, as opposed to, hell, if you can get 4 runs against Scooble, you might have sewn the damn thing up, right? As it's going on, or so it's going to be interesting to see. That'll be a fun series to watch, and there'll be a lot of of swagger in that series, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, that'll do it for us today. But tomorrow, I want to talk, obviously, all these games, what we see today, what moving forward, who's in a hole, who surprised us. You know, once all these games have done, it's still 1-1. They're in the top of the sixth now between Cleveland and Detroit.
What did I tell you? 1-1. Three
Yep.
runs or 3 runs is going to win that game. First 1 to 3 wins that game, I think.
Yes, for sure. I think so too. But tomorrow I want to talk about, we didn't really get to hit on Sam Pittman being fired. I want to talk about all the openings in college football that we already have. Normally, it doesn't feel like we have this many openings at good
during the season.
During the season, yes. So I want to talk about all those. What are the best? What's the worst? And what other jobs would we open up if we were deciding, if we were the AD at all the schools and we got to pick which coaches should be gone, which coaches should you move on from? I want to do that tomorrow as well. And then we'll just continue to talk football and anything else that comes up as well.
And why there's a couple Super Bowl favorites that aren't Super Bowl favorites. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Get my
I like
point?
that as well.
Yes. And I think we're as wide open as we've been. I can tell you that, especially in college football, Segs. I can't tell you who is, but I'm going to tell you this. There's going to be somebody who outside of Ohio State that's not a top 2 or 3 team that's going to be in the finals, I think, when we get to the playoffs. So we'll discuss that as well.
Yeah, and I want to talk about, I saw a stat today about the Eagles. I want to get your take on and why maybe they're not as good as we think they are, but they keep winning. So I want to get your take on why this stat is what it is, but why they keep winning as well.
Fair enough. Why they keep winning is going to be huge too. That's because they're not overwhelming you statistically right now.
Right. And there's different ways they can beat you, but we'll discuss that all tomorrow. Thanks to Triple E. Thanks to Laura. Thanks to you, Sean. We will be back tomorrow at our normal 12 Central, and we'll break down the MLB playoffs and everything we just talked about. We'll continue on tomorrow. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.